he played very, very well. So we'll have to see if that Drogo shows up today for this match, but we should probably introduce our players, shouldn't we?
Sounds like a good idea. And we have spawning in the upper right, in the blue for Litecoin, because they're an esports org now. He is the little pharmacist, Drogo.
And spawning in the bottom left, it's our red Zerg player. This is Vanya. And I think you told me that he just got into Genesis Gaming. So that's a bit of a fun development.
Yeah, I think that was about a month ago. I'm so used to, I've cast a lot of Vanya through like the Exxon Open Cups every week, or I don't have time to do that as much anymore. Wednesdays are apparently a bad time. But I've had the opportunity to cast a lot of Vanya, so I'm very used to, from Russia, from B100 Esports, Vanya, but no. He has left. I don't know whether he was bought out by Genesis Gaming or whether his contract with B100 ended. Not exactly sure what happened with that one. But yes, he is now on Genesis Gaming, because Genesis Gaming is just kind of slightly under the radar, buying up like every good tier 1.5 player. I mean, they kind of merged with Archangel. They got a bunch of good players from there. They got Vanya now. They got Pili, who of course is looking a lot better in North America than he ever had, than he has recently at the very least. So yeah, Genesis Gaming, they're looking rather good.
Yeah, they are doing some really cool things in the scene, and actually, can we do a little bit of a shout out to all of the teams that are so active in 2021? We're crossing the 11-year threshold for StarCraft 2. And we've got so much action in the scene right now, which is really, really exciting. I know that a couple of years ago, there was a lot of hesitation as to whether or not that was going to be the case going forward. And seems to be a lot of good things happening, a lot of excitement. A big shout out to big players like Shopify and Coinbase for really investing in the StarCraft 2 scene. Without organizations like them, a lot of this wouldn't be possible.
You're not wrong. And also, I love that we're seeing new sponsors. I mean, yes, okay, Shopify have not always been massive sponsors of StarCraft, but I mean, Toby, their CEO, he's a massive StarCraft fan. I mean, he hired Select to an internship, I believe, and then a full-time job, sight unseen, because he's like, look, if I know that you can spend the time to be a pro StarCraft player and get that level of excellence, I know you're going to be good at my company. So that was always pretty cool. But we're also seeing these new orgs come in. Litecoin, which, by the way, this is not, some random person that says, yes, I'm going to go and I'm going to take the Litecoin name and I'm going to take my Litecoin earnings and turn it into an esports org. No, this is an esports org founded by the official Litecoin Foundation. Like this is Drogo, sponsored by the cryptocurrency itself, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that you could do that, but yes, money can sponsor players.
It's really cool. I actually didn't know that. So neat little statistic here. Drogo, speaking of which, trying to find a little bit of harassment here at the opening onsets of this game. It's pretty stock standard opening. 2 adepts doing a little bit of harassment, zipping back and forth. We're going to get an Oracle out of the Stargate for the follow-up. And this is where I think Vanya could lead into a similar push timing, but he's going to choose to be a bit more aggressive here, sending the Lings out across the map. This is a nice little way to put some pressure out onto that third base location and delay that as much as possible. But it looks like Drogo is just going to be very, very patient with that, leaving the Oracle back at home. This is going to be well dealt with. Yeah, he doesn't even turn the energy beam on. Vanya has to respect it. So instead, he's going to try and get into a different location. This might trigger a response here. Instead, no, it's just going to show the second Oracle. Very, very good patience here by the Protoss player.
You are absolutely correct. And it's kind of funny. Oh, look at this. We got a third Oracle on the way. So Drogo, he's not really going to commit to Stargate tech all that much. I mean, you get 1 Oracle, you're like, okay, maybe. 2 Oracles, a little less likely, but 3 Oracles, unless this is Zest's 2.5 base quick carrier build, which I don't think it is. We will see Drogo get on into ground-based tech rather soon, but not before getting off 6 workers, snapping them down rather easily. He's going to go back for more, because why not? 8 workers go down. Vanya, he's not in position. A bit unfortunate there, but hey, 8 workers do go down. That's going to give Drogo just a little bit of a lead, because again, his third base, it is just about done. He has those Chronos. He will be able to build himself into a wonderful economic position. There we go. We got a Twilight on the way, and a bunch of adepts. I mean, these don't have glaives. This is just annoying aggression here. It's 6 adepts, but there's no glaives. This is actually a really interesting move out from Drogo.
Oh, Vanya, I don't even think he's actually registered what's happening here. He had 3 lings and physically he saw this push coming across, but I think he just had those shift clicked it into scouting position. So now this is going to be a little bit of a scary position for Vanya to try and defend. Are those going to go in? No, they don't finish their shades, so just going to keep some pressure on right now. But the 3rd base has already been secured. Vanya back behind this is going to get his lair. He's going to try and just jump forward, maybe grab a little bit, but not a whole lot of damage. Vanya doing an okay job right now of mitigating this response. No 4th base just yet. Does seem like it's a large amount of drones in the production tab still, so Vanya is still trying to catch up on that worker count. Drogo doing a fantastic job economically, but that should start transitioning him into a little bit better tech position. Vanya really wants to get some damage done with these lings, though. They're going to find a little bit of obscurity as Vanya moves into the next portion of his game. It's going to be roaches. There will be +1 missile, but against adepts, these lings aren't going to find that much.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You talk about that push as if it didn't get much done there for Drogo, and I'm not convinced that is quite true. Is he had to spend a lot of larva. Remember, Roach Warren was not done, or at the very least, the roach form was not done, but you would not have roaches in time to deal with the threat. So he had to spend a lot of larva on Zerglings, which he probably doesn't really want that much in this game, as the Oracles will not be able to take that base down. They do a ton of DPS, but also, of course, glass cannons means that the 4th base will stay alive. That is a rather late 4th base. Vanya was on 53 workers for a good portion of this game, up until just about 5:45, 6 minutes. So yeah, Drogo, he did not kill any workers necessarily, but coupled with them with the 8 workers he got earlier on with those Oracles, it means that Vanya has just been in a bit of a recession over the course of this entire game. Now, well, through some stimulus, he's able to find his way on into 4 bases, on to 66, 72 odd workers, and he will be able to start building his economy. This buys Drogo the time he needs to maybe go on, get Blink, get +1, do all that, as the Oracles, they're going to fly on in, and this is a dead queen. 2 workers as well, and this Oracle should not die. There we go, more damage. And look at these force fields here. Drogo's going to find Vanya in the middle of the map. Nice splits means that only 1 sentry will go down, and we have more and more warpins. Of course, the Warp Prism is not going to go down because the Biles have already been spent. Who is actually taking this fight? Who is surrounding whom?
Oh, it's kind of a bit of a mix right now, but Vanya is going to be able to utilize a little bit of positioning here inside of the acceleration zone and capitalize on that, and he does do a good job of mitigating that army. These roaches are going to be able to get extended life as well, as they are going to be morphed into Ravagers. Some thoughtful play there. I think Drogo was really focused on trying to get as much capital damage with these Oracles as humanly possible, but did not get the positioning he looked for in the center of the map. So he's going to try and find a little bit more damage here. Still no Spore Crawler, but I don't think that that's going to matter. Vanya's going to try pushing on forward here. Look at the army! 90 to 29. It doesn't matter that there are air units. It doesn't matter that there are warp prisms. There is just so much Roach Ravager here. The Cybernetics core is going to go down, so that means it's only going to be Zealots out of those gateways for the time being, but I'm just not sold on this Beowulf. The workers are going to start going down, buildings get depowered, and I think Vanya is going to run away with game number 1, and he absolutely does. Great timing here by the Zerg player to secure a 1-0 lead in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rushy, in Bolivian food, there is a dish you can get that is called falso conejo, false rabbit, right? They sell it as if it's rabbit. It's very tasty, but it's not rabbit. It's, I want to say it's a chicken dish. We were fed a falso conejo in that last game. We're looking at this like, man, Drogo, he's getting so much damage done. He forced Vanya to stay on low workers. It's all great. And then you look at this army supply and you're like, that's 90 to 20. It's 90 to, yeah. And I kind of was looking at that fight in the stasis trap or in the speed zone. I'm like, man, it looks like Drogo here, because I got caught in my own narrative. Looks like Drogo is jumping on top of things, right? He's doing so much damage on the other side of the map, and how he's been able to jump on top of the tech here of Vanya, getting all knocking down all the tech, spinning those force fields. It's gonna be great. And you're like, wait a minute, this fight is not the way the fight that I think it is. And Vanya just lost all of his sentries, and he lost, or Drogo lost all of his sentries, lost a decent amount of army. And then you're like, wait a minute, this is not working out the way it was supposed to. And then Vanya runs across the map, 90 supply to 20. You're like, okay, well, that's game 1. Falso Conejo indeed.
Yeah, and I'm a music teacher. I don't have to count too high with my numbers in my job, but 90 to 20 is really easy to see. You don't have to be a mathematician to work that out. Game number 2 is going to be going to Oxide. Now, if Drogo was going to have a map that he could claw things back on, Oxide's definitely going to be it. I think there's a lot of potential here for the Protoss player to capitalize on, but I mean, Vanya just overwhelmed him in game number 1. I don't think that was a map imbalance, or I shouldn't say imbalance. People are going to go crazy. Dude, what? The caster talks about imbalance. No, that's not. I don't think it was a map advantage that won him that game, but things will definitely shake out as we go forward. So let's go ahead and hop into game number 2 here on Oxide.
Sounds good. And of course, spawning in the bottom left. In the blue, he's down 1 game in this series for Litecoin. He is PtitDrogo.
Spawning in the top right, it's our red Zerg player. This is Vanya.
And you know what? Apparently, I was incorrect. I thought Vanya had gone and been signed by Genesis Gaming, but apparently he was signed by Archangel, and that was part of the merger that was reneged. I thought he was separately signed. So no, Vanya is not on Genesis Gaming.
Oh. Ooh. Okay. Well, good to clear that information up.
Well, he was on Genesis Gaming for like 2 days, so technically, but he's not on it anymore. Which
That's
is
fair.
A bit unfortunate there for the Russian Zerg, because again, we don't see it in this game, but Vanya's got a really cool playstyle. He is the master of the proxy hatch, and he loves to do it against Protoss players. Again, we don't really see that here. It's kind of sad, but you know, maybe we'll see it later on. Who knows?
Are we able to count this as a proxy hatch?
No.
Like, no?
Rushy,
Oh.
no.
Okay.
It's not he's not blocking a base with it, Rusty. It doesn't count.
Well, what if Drogo was like, look, I've got this masterful build. I just pulled it off of SOS. It's from 2013, and the third Nexus actually goes up at the top of the base. Then Vanya's like, I've already done it. I already stopped it.
Well, I suppose you.
Speaking of stopping.
I suppose you could go for a proxy nexus in like the main base or something, you know, to recall some adepts on in.
Oh, Florencio's ears are burning somewhere.
That was an SOS build. It was a PvT build that he did in GSL Season 1 last year, where he proxied a nexus so he could chrono out a probe, so he could build a pylon, so he could warp in DTs.
I can't actually articulate my thoughts here, because again, like when Caster talks about inbound, Caster whining about units. What? Ugh, I'll be all over the subreddit in just a moment. So I'll keep my thoughts to myself here. Stargate does go down for Drogo here, and again, not going to be anything too out of the ordinary. Drogo. What can Drogo do here, Beowulf, to re-secure in this second series? Vanya's going to get a really good scout off. Is Drogo going to be able to get sneaky with his opponent, or is he just going to have to beat him on just sheer brain power and goodwill?
I think Drogo honestly put himself in a wonderful position to win that first game, right? He got a lot of workers. He forced units that Vanya really didn't want to make. But unfortunately, he didn't really, he moved out, right? He continued with that pressure that he probably should not have. He didn't have a good understanding that Vanya was continuing to pump roaches, ravagers, lings, all that fun stuff. So yeah, Vanya, he built these units he didn't want to build necessarily, but he said, okay, look, I got a bunch of roaches, I got a bunch of lings. Let's run out across the map. So Drogo, I think if he doesn't move out on the map there, if he stays back at home, if he has some static defense, suddenly he's on 50 army supply against 90, and that's much more doable than, 20 army supply versus 80. So I think Drogo, if he does something similar to what he did in the previous game and just tries to make sure that he does not lose his army in the middle of the map, I think he's going to be in a much better position, as these Zerglings will not get the probe. All they're going to do is get one adept. Nice hold there from Drogo, making sure he doesn't take any damage, and that means, yeah, it's going to be a little bit later at third base. It's at 412 instead of 350, but still, that is at the cost of 300 minerals, right? That is the cost of 6 drones that Vanya could have had otherwise. I don't think Drogo's all that upset about that.
That's a really good hold. I think if you have to lose something, you definitely want to trade out the Adept instead of the Probe. But all in all, losing that many Zerglings for it, Vanya can't be feeling great, as he is going to maneuver himself. It's got a bit of double pronged aggression here. The Adepts go into the third base location while the Oracles are swinging around the main. So a few more worker kills do end up going down. 4 in total, not an insignificant amount. And Drogo is going to try and pivot off of this, but a very good scout by Vanya. He is going to be able to see the Twilight Council and the Forge go down, so Vanya should be able to respond to this, and it does look like he is going to. The Roach Warren goes down at the backside of the third base location, so Drogo trying to be a little sneaky with his opponents, not working out so far.
Yeah, but I mean, on the flip side, we're seeing Drogo kind of do what he did last game. He's finding, I don't know, arguably more damage, right? He killed less workers, but he also got a lot more Zerglings. And he's not losing much, right? What has he lost over the course of this game? 3 Adepts. Okay, it looks like he did lose those Adepts on the other side of the map. But now the Oracles, they're going to look to fly on in. But with these 3 Queens, of course, not all that big of a deal. These Oracles could kill that base. But it looks like Drogo is not noticing. Now he's going to swing back on it. Yeah, will he? It looks like the Queens are not in position this time. So the Oracles should be able to kill off this 4th base. Does Vanya have the cancel? He does, but the drone will go down as well. And hey, that means Vanya, his 4th base is not going to get started anytime before like 6:30, 6:45. And already that's nice. And also, look at this, Vanya. There's a Baneling Nest down. Wait, there was a Baneling Nest down. He canceled it, then he restarted it. So yes, there's still a Baneling Nest going on down. Some Roach Ravagerling Bane Tech, I guess, is going to be the play for Vanya. That's anachronistic, to say the least.
I don't hate that though. Ravagerling Bane could end up being a destination for the mid game build that would work out really, really well against especially a ground focused army of Drogo. I think like as a Zerg player myself, I think I underestimate the power of speed Banes in the ZVP matchup, and that seems to be exactly where Drogo's going to head here. He's going to get additional gateways. He's going to wall off at the 3rd, but those are still going to be very useful for the production cycle of things. Disruptors are more than likely going to be on the menu as well. Sure, we'll probably see Colossus to start, but we know where this ends up going. If it's going to be ground toss, we're almost always going to see some disruptors get brought in. Some great harassment here, though, by these Oracles, getting 8 worker kills. I was just going to largely watch it and just flip away, but that's a lot of worker kills. Drogo gets out with all of the Oracles as well. This is great harassment here.
It really is. And, you know, you talk about Roach Ravagerling Bane. Well, there are 3 reasons why that composition, maybe more than 3, but 3 we'll talk about, or that composition is not nearly as popular as it once was. Banelings got nerfed against everything that wasn't light. I mean, we saw how many Banelings it took to try to knock down a Stalker, right? If Stalkers are in a wall, the wall dies before the Stalker does. Number 2, most Protoss build orders now, they get past the timing where Roach Ravagerling Bane is a problem much quicker than they used to. So that does mean that you just kind of time out. You don't have what you need to deal with the Sky Toss. And reason number 3, and perhaps the biggest one, Protoss players are getting into Disruptors and they're getting into Storm so much faster than previous. And considering the Baneling nerfs, it means Banelings are just getting exploded before they can even make connections. Which, yes, +2 Banelings always good against probes, but we don't even have +1 melee underway here. It's going to be a mostly ranged focused composition just with Banelings to support. And considering the fact that Disruptors are incredible against Roaches, incredible against Ravagers, and against Banelings too, like, look at that! All the Banelings, they're gone.
Oh, that's not the way you want to start that if you're Vanya. Drogo's got to be feeling really good. The Banelings do go forward and get a little bit of damage, so a consolation prize. Great force fields divide the army in half, though. The Ravager Biles will be quick to deal with that, but the Queens have been brought across the map here. There's not going to be a full queen walk just yet, but Vanya's teasing the idea. I don't know if Vanya's in the right position, though, to be able to move out here. He's got to come back and protect. He doesn't have quite enough army to go across the map and overwhelm his opponent, especially not with Disruptors being used defensively. I think Drogo is just going to try and bring the fight over to his opponent, though. He's going to step on the creep for a little bit of time. Doesn't like this position. I mean, this is a pretty tight choke to try and play into if you are the Protoss player. Even having Disruptors, this is not exactly where you want to be. And I think Drogo right now is in a position where he could just just settle down, get his fourth base set up. He does have the probes coming in. He needs to be able to deflect the kind of damage that is going to be incoming here by Vanya, a little bit of Zergling, Baneling run-bys. And I think if he can do that and secure a bit more of his army composition, he should be in a fine position, but he's got to make it to that point first.
Yeah, the second trick also, Drogo only has one observer, right? It is not really, actually, I'm sorry, he has 0 observers. Looks like that one was targeted on down by a Wayward Overseer. And that means that he cannot get aggressive as the Banelings are going to look to roll on in here. Drogo, he's going to be a little slow on the pull, but he's going to be fine at the end of the day. The cannon will get depowered, and there we go. Only 4 workers do go down because, again, they're plus 0 Banelings. It takes 2 Baneling shots to kill a probe. It's all fine there. But yeah, Drogo, until he has more detection, he really can't go on top of creep because he's going to be inviting massive surrounds, and that is the one time where Roach Ravager Ling Bane is just absolutely dominant, right? You attack it from every side. The force fields can't do what they need to. Disruptor shots can't really do what they need to do either. And now Zealots are going to look to warp in on in or get dropped into the main base, but there are Zerglings. That's totally fine. Now here's the look at this though. I love this. So Drogo's going to look to get aggressive on this new base that Vanya has decided to take. And in doing so, he's going to get massive stasis wards. My goodness. Wait, is he going to be able to time it right? There is so much bounty here for disruptors coming off of stasis to knock down.
Fortunately for Vanya, it wasn't a whole lot of expensive units. Roach, a Ravager, and a Baneling on the left-hand side, but most of the center and the right is all Zerglings, which is good. So I don't even think he needs to pop the disruptors at this point. Yeah, he just kind of pushes on forward. Possible base trade scenario here for these two players. Drogo's going to engage on the right, and Vanya's going to come over here on the left. It's going to be a little bit back and forth. Drogo's going to have a lot better time taking down bases, but don't underestimate Vanya's army here. These disruptor shots are going to try and find as much damage as possible. Is there enough army here to be able to trade things out? I think so. 14 probes do end up going down. So despite the fact that it's a base for workers, this is a little bit better situation here for Vanya. If he can hold on to this base, it gets even better, but he won't be able to. That base does go down, and now suddenly Drogo's kind of pinned back here. Will he be able to make the most of these disruptor shots? He does. He does coat the backside of this army, but all of those disruptors are going to get traded out as a result, and there's no recall happening at this point. I don't think that this is going to go as well as it could for Drogo. Vanya should be able to overwhelm this.
Yeah, so many of those disruptors were sitting right at the front lines. It meant that they didn't get their shot. I think probably 50% of the disruptors got their shots up. But at the end of the day, Stalkers, the Zealots are moving on forward. Now, Drogo did lose his third base. He does have that one coming on back, but Vanya had lost 2 bases there. And the army, by the way, the army that Vanya was using to kill that base, it had no detection. So as DTs were warped on in, DTs reaped a significant bounty in the exchange. And Drogo, if his disruptors had not been at the front of his army, I think he carries that fight. I think he does end up carrying the game. But now he's here on 57 workers. He's down on workers. He is even on bases for the most part. Actually, it looks like the upper left has now finished, has now completed. There we go. DTs are running on into it. Thank you, Rushy. The greatest observer known to man. Drogo now, he's going to get aggressive once again. He has 4 disruptors. I don't know if 4 disruptors and 4 stalkers are enough to really make too much of an impact in this game.
Oh, I'm going to agree with you. But disruptors, man, disruptors can get so much done, and it could easily turn the scale if Vanya's not careful. But I think without a sizable amount to body block for those disruptors, I think you're absolutely right. I think Vanya finds this army, and he should just be able to overwhelm it. But he does have to play a lot of defense back at home. His main base does have a bit of a drop going down. This small hit squad is going to go on the right-hand side. The left-hand side has a sizable run by as well. If Drogo was going to try and equalize a little bit of the positioning here, this is exactly the way he needs to get it done. The army on the left should be dealt with mostly. Vanya's got enough there to hold, but does Vanya have the micro on the right-hand side? He has focused over here. These disruptors are just a bit too scary, and he can't leave those unattended. Exactly for that reason, loses 3 Ravagers. That is the start that Drogo needs, but he needs a lot more of those to make this count.
And he also feels like he's kind of zoned out of his own bases at this point. He's going to have to make the long run around here as Zerglings, Banelings, Roaches, Ravagers, the whole kit and caboodle are now going to run on into this third baseman shield battery overcharge. It's going to keep these Archons alive in spades. And now Drogo, instead of being zoned out, he's got the flank coming on in. And is he able to get the disruptors on in time? The answer is no there. The Roaches, the Ravagers, they're just going to run away because you know what? They are speedy boys. Disruptors not nearly as fast, but now, well, there's no detection on this army. DT Warpins should be able to make the hold happen regardless. And the disruptor shots, are they going to go on down? They're not going to be all that great here, but there's going to be one more, and that one's going to go bowling for roaches, but again, not in time. Once again, Drogo does lose his 4th base. And actually, I want to see the economy here, because Vanya secretly, rather quickly, he is not at a worker lead anymore, right? Drogo has found his way on up. Vanya has found his way on down. And Drogo he's kind of equalized the income. If you look at relative income here, plus or minus 300, 200, 100 either way. Even as Drogo lost that 4th base, it's not the end of the world for him.
Vanya did exactly what he needed to, though, to stay in this game. He had to snipe that Nexus, and it went down. If Drogo can hold the 4th base, that would just skyrocket into his favor. He would have done exactly enough damage to be able to secure himself and stabilize. But instead, Drogo's taking a tech advantage here. He is getting a decent amount of Archons to complement. That's going to deal really, really well against the large Ling Bane composition that's happening here. The Ravagers, though, are the scary part. This Ravager Ling Bane style, again, it's no joke, and Vanya is taking the most of the opportunity, really getting some good interceptions on these army counts. Ling's going to try and come in at the 4th base location once again to pop that down and keep that off of the map, but I think Drogo is going to have a dedicated defense to keep that alive. That's going to open up the 3rd base, though.
I mean, it's a 3rd base that honestly doesn't have a lot left to it anymore. As more and more disruptors coming on, and there is detection here, which doesn't really matter all the moment. I think Drogo would have much preferred to see those disruptors. Oh, God, and we're going to see some massive shots going. And yes, 10 workers have died. 14, 16 workers. Banelings ran on into the 3rd base, wiped that one on out. But there are the Archons in the front. They're not really going down all that quickly. And how many more disruptor shots do we have? Well, maybe 3 more. What are the cooldowns? Okay, we're going to have a couple more here. And Banelings are just exploding onto Archons. They're just not getting the trades they need. But still, look at the supply. It's getting close for a second, and then Vanya hits another round, and suddenly it's a 60 supply lead once again. Now, I gotta say, though, Drogo, he's doing such a good job with this hand that he has dealt. He's doing such a good job of holding this game and not dying. But I'm not convinced he's in a position to win anymore. I think the economy is really starting to tell the tale of the tape here, as he's down 1,000 minerals a minute.
Yeah, Drogo just doesn't have the production that he needs here. Fortunately, he's taking some really, really good engagements, and he's making the most of his technology, but without having a secure 4-base economy, he's not able to really capitalize on it. So Vanya can just keep rallying in roaches. He's going to have the gas bank to be able to get Ravagers as he needs them. 6 workers do end up going down here. DT in the top left will be a bit annoying, and that's going to help. That will bring things a little bit closer economically. So Drogo, once again, leaning into that tech advantage here. But I think that that's just going to only be a matter of time before Vanya decides to throw down. Yeah, there goes the Spore Crawler here. So largely that's going to be dealt with. Oh, this is a lot of valuable tech here out of the center of the map. Oh, he can't afford to lose those disruptors for free. Oh, that's a terrible loss here for Drogo. Every Archon, every disruptor, so valuable right now.
Now, one thing we can't forget here is you said, oh, well, eventually there's going to be a Spore there. One thing we really cannot forget in this game is Vanya, his economy, it's not insane, right? Yes, he's got a lot of bases. This much is true, but he hasn't really been above 66 workers for the last, I don't know, 15 minutes. Well, I guess that's technically true, but certainly for the last 5 minutes, he's not been above 66 workers. So yes, he is and has been leading Drogo in the income department. But at the end of the day, he's not mining all that much. So if Drogo is going to be able to start trading even more efficiently than he already is, right? He's plus 4K. Maybe that's going to be the avenue back. I mean, disruptor shots, they are the ultimate comeback unit. Notice Drogo got onto 5 disruptors. He's like, okay, I need a little bit more beef in my army now, a little bit more immortals, stuff like that. And now disruptor shots go into the low ground. Okay, nothing there. Banelings. Oh,
Banelings are going to connect with more probes. I mean, that's unfortunate damage here for Drogo. He can't afford to take any damage at this point. He has to be the dealer, and he's got to make sure that the house is always going to win. And losing 14 probes is not going to be the way that he needs to secure that. Vanya continues pushing him further and further into the grid. There goes another disruptor for free. Losing out an observer as well. Vanya is just taking advantages every chance he can get them. This is catapulting him further and further in this game.
Yeah, that really seems to be the story. Oh, disruptors. Vanya's not paying attention. There we go. That's max damage. Vanya, or I should say Drogo, really seems to not be paying attention to his army as well as he should in this entire series, right? How many units has he lost in the middle of the map to Vanya just being in the right position? He's lost, what, 3 disruptors this game, a bunch of Archons. He lost half of his army in the previous game. That meant Vanya was immediately able to kill him. So I feel like if Drogo just stops making that mistake, he's gonna be, he would be a lot more fine here. Because again, these are extremely impactful units that he's losing. Now we will have, of course, Banelings look to run on into that 4th base once again. They will not find nearly as much though. Only 4 workers do go down. And that's something, because Banelings, they're not cheap. As much damage as they have the potential to get at this point in the game, theoretically they're not all that cheap. But now Vanya's back up to 40 workers once again. Disruptor shots reigning supreme, but still, Vanya, he's up 50 army supply, and he is just mining again. He's mining a lot more. Wow, he's mining 3 times as much minerals at this point.
Yeah, 70 to 38 workers is no joke here. Some good disruptor shots. Gosh, Drogo is, I mean, he's playing lights out just to stay in the game. Like, these aren't even moments where he can turn the tide. He's just trying to prevent the game from ending, and he's getting a lot of good things done. Vanya's really not making a tech switch here. I think he's still on lair tech. He's not really moving off a Ravager Ling Bane. And for right now, since both players are playing rather low economic styles, this is working out here. Oh, that was almost a really good trade on those Zerglings, but Vanya does split in the last second. Drogo gonna try and take that bottom right-hand base, but yeah, the transition just really isn't there for either player. They're feeling really comfortable playing Ravager Ling Bane versus just this stock standard Death Ball, Archon, Immortal, Zealot, Disruptor army. So both players comfortable staying where they're at right now. And again, until Drogo really makes a big tech change of his own or gets more stabilized economically, I don't think Vanya has to get off of tech here. He's doing a great job. Look at all these Banelings rolling in here to the 4th base location once again, trying to find those probes. But now it is going to be an army recall, but not really that much because he knows Vanya's going to be coming across on the opposite side of the map. I think Vanya is finally going to be able to overwhelm Drogo here.
Yeah, this is when okay, that just, nope, never mind. The right army on the right hand side, totally fine, but Drogo will once again lose this 4th base. So it's kind of funny, right? We look at this, we're like, oh, maybe I like what Drogo's doing, right? He's only expanding into another base once he's kind of mined out on the other one, but he was still 8 mineral patches on that left one. He's going to lose the right hand side base as well. I think disruptor shots though, are they going to be good enough? No, disruptors, once again, some mispositioning. Disruptors are in the front, which means they can get targeted on down, and this base is going to die the last of the biles. Drogo, he's now functionally half a base Protoss at this point. Let's take a look at the economy. Or more of the lack of economy. 300 minerals a minute, no gas. Banelings running on into the natural. I'm not even sure what they're gonna find. Yeah, Vanya realizes there are no workers in that base. There's no point. So Drogo, he is all in. He is down 50 army supply. He has played a great game trying to come back from the position that he was in, but losing too many units in the middle of the map is really going to be his downfall here. Now he will be able to knock this base down. That's going to be nice for him. Actually, he may not even be able to get that. And there we go. Disruptor's dead. That's going to be it. Vanya in an epic 20